Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to introduce you to the first chapter of our book on trust, capacity, and accountability, 3 building blocks of education system reform. I'm Melanie Aaron, professor in educational governance at the Vrije Universiteit Amsterdam and director of Research Institute Learn. And I co-wrote this book with Jacqueline Baxter, who's also the co-editor of this entire book. As the title of the chapter indicates, this chapter introduces the framework for the entire book and how we have conceptualized trust, capacity, and accountability to think about education system reform and education systems entirely. In the first part of the book, various authors talk about these relations in a bit more detail, but still from a very conceptual viewpoint. In the second part of the book, though, various authors use the framework to illustrate the interactions between trust, accountability, and capacity for their particular country, talking about a specific reform or topical issue. But let me briefly introduce you to the framework, which is at the heart of this first chapter. And to be able to do so, I'm going to ask you to picture an education system as a set of concentric circles with students, teachers, and parents in the center, a surrounding circle of the classroom and school environment, and an outer circle where policies are developed and where national cultures and structures shape what is happening in the school and classroom. And these circles represent what we call the microsystem, mesosystem, macrosystem, and exosystem. And if we add the dimension of time, we also have a chronosystem. In the chapter, we describe how trust, accountability, and capacity interact on each of these levels to improve learning outcomes. And let me describe what this looks like for the microsystem, as this is what we're most familiar with. The microsystem is about the learning and development of students and the interactions they, for example, have with their teachers and the relations they develop with peers over time. And we can think about these interpersonal relations in terms of trust, capacity, and accountability, such as how students come to trust their teacher and how being accountable promotes or inhibits such trust and thereby contributes to high quality teaching and learning. Now, coming back to our understanding of education systems as a set of concentric cycles or circles, we can see how these relations are also informed by the school context, such as a culture of trust in the school or the quality assurance system in place to regulate some of the interactions in the classroom. And these will in turn also be influenced by the wider accountability system and cultural values and norms that, for example, inform how students and teachers interact and how schools are organized and led. And throughout the chapter, we ask ourselves whether trust and accountability can build on one another, whether they act as substitutes, or whether they even have an inverse relationship, such as where you cannot really trust someone who also holds you accountability, or vice versa. We explained that the answer to the question really depends on what was already in place and initial levels of trust, accountability, and capacity. If you're interested to know more, please read the chapter because there is much more to say about this. And I hope that that will also inspire you to read the entire book. We've written the chapter so that you can read these as standalone pieces of work, but they're in their entirety, they will give you quite a whole new framework and mindset to think about education systems and education system reform. And for me, I can really say that working on this book and the conversations that we had with all the colleagues who wrote the country chapters has completely changed how I look at education systems and has provided me with a much more nuanced and better understanding of why reforms work or fail. And I really hope that the book will have the same effect on you. So I hope you enjoy reading it.